Hey, it's the same night. Well, no, it's 12:40, so it's the next day maybe, but it's less than an hour and a half after the last one. So, news. I have news. Carl took me to this door that he found. Right, this door at the back of Mrs. Caneen's office. It was behind a portrait of somebody I don't recognize. It was closed, but it was unlocked. Um, I don't think that Mrs. Caneen knows it's there because it was pretty much rusted shut. Inside the place, through the door, there were a bunch of stairs leading down into not quite a basement, and at the bottom of these stairs, there's like 2 centimeter high water across the entire place. It's a big rectangle. There were mud as well underneath the water, and sometimes little island clumps came up above. Carl showed me around the place. So we found, other than just like the mud and water, there were signs of something. I'm not. We're not sure what. It's not quite human feet, but closer to that than any animal that I can think of. We uh, footprints, not feet. We didn't find feet. There were prints in the mud. So we looked around for a short while, but I didn't see anything, and I didn't know what the footprints are of. Still don't. And really, I just kind of wanted to get back to this recording thing. I wasn't done. Um, Carl super wanted me to go back there and keep looking, though now he's not talking to me. Sorry, Carl. He won't even look at me. Carl. Carl. Look, I won't go in there again, but if it'll make you happy, I'll go close the thing after I'm done, alright? No way I'm going in there again, dark as it is. It's not pitch like out here. You can actually see in front of your face, but dark and scarier. So, had enough trouble getting back to my desk as well to try walk over there again. Mrs. Caneen's place has lights, less glaring than, but the atrium's never had any. Anyway, so what I wanted to say last bit is I want to talk about some of the theories that I have about all that's going on around here, all that does go on around here. I've got a few. Again, it gets really boring here once everyone else has left. So for a while, I started paying closer attention while they were here, so that I had something to think about when they weren't. Since we were just talking about her, I'll start with Mrs. Caneen. Now, I'm not sure, right? But I do reckon that she might potentially be a grounded god. Oh, speaking of which. No, it's fine. I didn't fully pull this out of my ass, by the way. She does act a bit suspicious that led me to... For example, she never eats, right? Well, not in the office, anyway. There's nothing to eat in her office, and she never brings in any food, never goes out during the day, Well, okay, sometimes she goes out, right? And maybe she still eats breakfast and dinner at home, right? But she's not sickly. She looks like she's getting proper meals every day, but never seen her eat that. Oh, well, one time actually she did bring in some food, some boxes of rice from a place down the street, but she just threw them out right away. Didn't eat any of them. So a grounded god in mortal form's what I reckon. Can hardly prove it, but it's more likely than the rest of what I came up with, I'll let you know if she starts glowing anytime soon. One that I'm sure of, as for being inhuman, though. So there's this woman in accounting, right, or programming, the people on that floor, and she kept trying to get people to leave at the same time as her to get a drink at the water fountain, right? There's a park not too far from here. Yeah, that's me, Connor, Mrs. Caneen, the janitors sometimes. One time I had to go up there to tell them that they were late on their rent, right? And she was doing exact same thing to all of her co-workers. Always trying to get them to go to the water fountains in the park with her, right? Always wearing sunglasses too. Never took them off. A description, she was tall, she had long black hair that went like a decent way down the back. Liked to wear, dresses and heels, not like revealing but like dresses. And one time, I go into the unisex bathroom to double check. I catch her looking in the mirror without the sunglasses on. Right. The actual toilets are installed, so it wasn't weird or anything. Well, not me being in there at the same time as she wasn't weird. The eyes were weird. They were huge. She definitely had eye whites, right? But despite how mammoth her eyes were in her skull, you could only really see the whites when her eyes were looking to the side. When she was looking straight on, the colored part of the eye, still need to learn that word, it took up the entire visible part of the eye. The pupil was ovular instead of circular, horizontally. Well, she noticed me in the mirror and right away pulled the sunglasses down from her forehead back to over her eyes. She let out a huff, grabbed her heels up off the floor and stomped off. Clopped off. Whatever shoes she had on at the time made it kind of, on the tile. It was like yeah. Now, up until that point, I was convinced that she was a Nix, but after that, I wasn't so sure. So, over a while, people kept disappearing from the accounting programming floor. Saw a handful of new faces every week, really, all asking me at the desk which floor their new job is. So, one day, I hear, just idly, that all of the park's fountains stopped working because the underground piping got blocked. When the local government went to unclog them, they found every square centimetre of the water reserves were packed full of corpses. Most of them were missing their arms or the fingers, and those were found stuffed and clogging the pipes and probably moved to make more space. The bodies near the top were all recent missing persons cases. All drowned, but the bodies near the bottom were skeletal and broken, aged to a point where they just weren't identifiable. Lots of them too small to be adults. A couple seemed to date back to as early as the park's water piping system was made. Carl always said that he knew. Well, after the fountains broke, she quit. She left. Don't know where she is now. Didn't see her again. But back to some of my actual theories, not stories. Okay, so I'm fairly certain that Medusa works here too. Incredibly certain. So there's this girl, right? This girl who works here, and yet I just happen, so coincidentally in quotation marks, I happen to have not once, seen her for myself or heard anybody else talk about her. Not once, right? And there's this guy in programming or accounting. Pretty sure he's a lich and his computer's his phylactery. What? Carl, what's that face? Oh, come on, don't... Whatever. This is for me, not you, right? Well, okay, we can talk about that stuff later. It's about time I introduced Connor for real, right? I've heard his name enough. He's the security guard that we have here. We only have one security guard because we were worried that people might start to get suspicious after the 12th death in 1 week, Less security guards means less security guards to die. So, simple maths. Connor's good though. The other workers here call him Mr. O'Neill, but he specifically asked me and Mrs. Kinane to call him Connor. He's a good guy. Oh, there's a nice story. Yeah, okay. One of the first things that he did that made us kind of realize that he's the real deal. So, this one day we get a visitor, right? Visitors are uncommon, not just because of the nature of being an office building. Most of the visitors that aren't just lost are either here against their will, or the sort of person that would totally force someone else here against their will. This lady was arguably both. Long unwashed hair, halfway down her shins. Looked like she hadn't cut it or wet it for half a decade or so. The hair was grey, but the lady was young, 27 like at the very most. She was so malnourished that if her pale skin was any paler at all, you couldn't be faulted for mistaking her legs and arms as being the skeletal remains of a long dead woman. She came in here, shuffled, really, and asked me if we had any expendable workers. Her eyes were all red. Not red, not like some, but her eyes were red like she'd just finished having a big cry. Her voice was shaking as she spoke, and the way she said expendable workers, like it was comparable to asking if a restaurant did milkshakes, like it's something I must be asked all the time. So after glancing at Carl just long enough to get on his nerves, I told her that no, we didn't. She slammed her fist onto my desk and hung her head, and she just sobbed and sobbed. Slammed her fist on my desk again and again, and she threw her head back and screamed. Not a scream of rage or fear that it'd be easy to think it was one. She let out a scream of pain, and these red patches started appearing across the top of her head. Blood was seeping down through her grey hair. She just banging her fist against the desk, howling apology after apology, saying she'd work harder, saying she'd find someone. No idea who she was talking to. It was just us two and Carl in the room. Lots of parallels to what was going on with Kinane here, but if you'd experienced both, you'd know it was like completely different. But both yelling and liquid on head. I'll give you that. So right then, that's when Connor rushed in. Normally he'd be outside the front door, but at this point in time, he was just in the middle of a meeting with Kinane. So he looked from the girl to me and back again, not sure if he should tackle and restrain her or give her first aid. As soon as he came into the room and tried to think what to do, that was the screaming and banging stopped. She slowly raised her snivelling head from the desk to look at Connor. I don't know why, since I was so much closer, but her tears began running full force again. She sprinted straight towards Connor, yelling for him to just lie still and die. As she passed me, I noticed that her grey hair was moving, independent from the rest of her. As she sprinted, instead of, flowing backwards or whatever, it straightened up and reached for, it was grasping for Connor. Before she got within 2 meters of him, he'd drawn his gun and shot her twice in the legs. She hit the ground hard, grabbing at the new holes in her legs and just sobbing helplessly. And right there, I swear the flesh started disappearing off of her head. Within just a few seconds, I could see her skull. A few more seconds, and it was hollow. And that put a stop to her sobbing and left her body limp. The hair remained. It was coming from her skull, not the flesh that used to be on it. And the ends of it began making their way down her body, ripping and tearing flesh, but none of it was on the floor. The hare was eating her. The hare finished devouring what little flesh that woman had on her. I think I may have heard a burp. When Connor and I tried to get rid of the skeleton on the ground, the hare made another dive for Connor, so I used a broom and pushed the skeleton into Mrs. Kineen's office, out of sight from the atrium. We left it on the ground there a few days. Just us two. Carl and Kineen knew about it, and after that, the hare stopped attacking us when we got near. I don't know how, but I think it must have starved. That story always... God damn it! Sorry, I can hear the shuffling again. Hephaestus is getting up. God. I've had to kill him every 19 hours for the past 4 days. And of course, he's getting up now when it's pitch black, when I don't remember where I left him, so I have to wait for him to light himself on fire before I can fucking kill him again. Oh, there you are! Melted another goddamn shovel. Normally, by now, I would have just let him do whatever he was trying to do, but the bastard wants to melt the building's gargoyles for whatever reason, and God knows I need all the help I can get. God probably also knows that I should stop using phrases containing the word God 15 minutes before and after I have to kill Festus. Hey, where's my goddamn... Carl, I can't find the fucking recorder. Shouldn't have gotten out of my goddamn chair. Carl, why are you shaking your head at me? You could just as easily be in the same position. No. Oh, here it is. Fucking okay. Wrong button. Where